She humiliated him in front of everyone, not knowing he owned the building she worked in. The most elegant restaurant in Beverly Hills went silent, and not because of the pianist stopping mid-song, but because of what one woman said, and who she said it to. He walked in alone, no bodyguards, no gold watch, no shiny shoes, just an old jacket, dusty boots, and a kind smile that didn't belong in a place like that. Ashley, the senior hostess, didn't even try to hide her disgust. She looked him up and down and smirked. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked loud enough for nearby tables to hear, the kind of voice that bruises, the kind that says, "You don't belong here," without ever saying the words. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't lower his gaze. "Yes," he replied calmly. "I'd like a table, please." She rolled her eyes and led him to the worst seat in the house, right by the kitchen, where the air smelled of grease and the sound of clattering plates never stopped. To her, he was nobody, just another man trying to sneak into a world that wasn't his. But what she didn't know was that the man she just humiliated in front of half of Beverly Hills wasn't just a guest. He was the owner. And tonight, she wouldn't just serve dinner. She'd be served a lesson she'd never forget. If this already gave you chills, wait until you hear what he said when he stood up. Subscribe now, because the ending of this story will stay with you for the rest of your life. Ashley didn't bother hiding her disdain. As she handed him the menu, she dropped it on the table like it was a flyer for fast food. "If you need help understanding anything, let me know," she said with a sarcastic smile. Then she leaned in and whispered just loud enough for the nearby couple to hear. "This place isn't exactly budget-friendly." The man looked up at her, calm, unfazed. "Thank you. I'll have the filet rossini, please." She blinked. That was the most expensive item on the menu. $350, truffle-infused, a dish reserved for guests who ordered vintage wine without blinking. Ashley chuckled almost mockingly. "Just so we're clear, the filet rossini is $350, she said. "That's before tax and tip." "Sounds delicious," he replied with the same warm, disarming tone. "I'm sure it will be worth every penny." Ashley tilted her head. Something in his voice made her uneasy. Was he being sarcastic? Was this some kind of social experiment? She decided to test him further. "Just so you know, our chef prefers guests who understand the art behind the dish. It's sophisticated." He nodded. "I'm looking forward to it." Ashley sighed, annoyed that her jabs weren't landing. She turned abruptly, mumbling under her breath as she walked away. Let's see how long this one lasts before asking for the check. The kitchen was busy, the dining room vibrant. But at that table in the corner, something different was happening. A quiet tension, a man too serene for a place so polished. As she passed other tables, Ashley made sure to chat, laugh, and pamper guests she deemed worthy. But whenever she glanced at his table, he was just waiting, not checking his watch, not on his phone, just present. And people noticed. The older gentleman, 2 tables over, raised his glass in silent respect. The couple who overheard her earlier whispered to each other, "He's not reacting to anything she does, that takes strength." "He's clearly someone," the woman replied. "You can tell by the way he carries himself." But Ashley didn't see it, or refused to. To her, he was a stain on her perfect dining room, a poor man pretending, a joke in motion. What she didn't realize was that this quiet man was letting her dig her own grave, one passive-aggressive comment at a time, and when he finally spoke up, the entire room would stop breathing. Ashley didn't take his order to the kitchen right away. Instead, she made a detour, stopping at a center table with a glamorous couple, laughing loudly at the man's joke. She delivered cocktails to another table that wasn't even hers. She checked on a dish she hadn't placed. She passed by his table at least 3 times, each time pretending not to see him. Each time, he looked up, not with impatience, but with stillness, almost kindness. This made her even more irritated. "He's still here," she whispered to a co-worker. "Bet he'll walk out when he sees the bill." Back at his table, he had finished the sparkling water, not the bottle, just the glass, and was now simply observing the restaurant, the chandeliers, the laughter, the movement, the music, as if he was enjoying a symphony, even from the shadows. Ashley finally placed his order, deliberately late. She made sure it would take longer than usual. Let him wait, she thought. Let him see what kind of place this really is. As the minutes ticked by, something began to shift in the room. The pianist, though unaware of the drama, played slower. The laughter grew more cautious. Other guests had started to notice the man in the corner and the woman who kept ignoring him. The older man in the navy suit, the one who had earlier raised his glass, now stood. He walked over to the man's table with calm dignity, a man who had lived long enough to recognize quiet strength when he saw it. "Good evening, young man," he said gently. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've been watching." The man looked up and smiled. "Good evening, you're not interrupting at all. You've shown remarkable patience in a world that rarely rewards it," the old man said. Then, with a quiet chuckle, "Sometimes how we're treated is not about us, it's about them. But staying calm, that takes real character." Before the man could respond, Ashley suddenly appeared. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her voice tighter than before. She turned to the older gentleman, adding, "We usually ask guests not to disturb others." The old man gave her a sharp but composed glance. "I was just sharing a compliment. It's rare to see someone so composed." Ashley offered a forced smile. "Well, perhaps you should enjoy your dinner at your own table then, sir." The older man bowed slightly to the quiet guest and returned to his seat, not without giving Ashley one final look of disapproval. Back at the bar, Ashley vented again. "He's pretending to be calm, but he's definitely uncomfortable," she hissed to another server. "That's what they do. They show up, try to act important, and then can't even finish the meal." Her co-worker didn't respond, just looked away. Across the room, the same couple from before were whispering again. "She's awful," the woman said, shaking her head. "And he's being so gracious, it's heartbreaking." "Maybe he's not who she thinks he is," the man added. "There's something different about him." And they weren't wrong, because the man they were watching was about to change everything, with just one sentence. The main course was ready. Ashley saw the dish sitting under the warming lamp, but she didn't rush. She talked to a table about wine pairings. She checked her lipstick in the mirror near the kitchen. She laughed a little too loud at something a guest said. Then, finally, she picked up the plate and walked it over. Not gracefully, not warmly. She dropped it on his table with a heavy hand. "Here it is. Hope you enjoy," she said. Then added almost under her breath, "And if it's too much, we can always switch to something simpler." The man looked at the dish, then at her. "It looks perfect. Thank you." His voice never wavered. No sarcasm, no anger, just calm. Again. Ashley leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "You sure? It's a pretty sophisticated dish. Might be hard for someone unfamiliar." "I'm sure," he replied, "but thank you for your concern." Frustrated, she turned and walked off. At the bar, she rolled her eyes. "He's faking it. I guarantee he has no idea what he's eating." Her colleague tried to shift the subject, but Ashley wouldn't stop. People like that come in to feel rich for a night. "It's pathetic." Nearby tables began to pick up the energy. The tension wasn't whispered anymore. It was felt. Whispers spread like wildfire. "She's trying to humiliate him," one woman whispered, hand over her heart. "He's being so kind, and she keeps pushing." The older gentleman across the room just shook his head. Then it happened. Ashley returned to the man's table with a steaming cup of coffee. "I hope you're enjoying your evening," she said sweetly. Too sweetly. He looked up, still serene. But this time, his gaze lingered. It had weight. "Are you being sincere?" he asked. Ashley paused, smiled falsely. "Of course. We welcome all kinds of people here. It's what makes the place so unique." A beat of silence, then another. Every nearby table stopped talking. She had said it too loud. She had said too much. The man gently set down his fork, sat up straighter. And then he spoke. "You're right. Maybe I should have handled this differently." Ashley raised her eyebrows. Before she could respond, a firm, commanding voice echoed from across the dining room. "Mr. Reeves, we had no idea you were joining us tonight." The restaurant froze. Ashley's face drained of color. Every eye in the room turned toward her. The man at the table and the one she had mocked, ignored, and humiliated nodded calmly to the manager, and then turned to her. "Now," he said softly, "let's talk about how we treat people." Ashley blinked. Once, twice. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The manager rushed over to the table, eyes wide, face flushed. "Mr. Reeves, sir, please forgive us. Had I known—" Keanu raised a hand. Calm. Not to silence, but to slow everything down. The room was frozen. Forks stopped mid-air. The pianist's fingers hovered above the keys. Ashley turned toward the manager, confused, stammering. "Wait, Mr. Reeves. He never said who he was." The manager's voice was lower now, but heavy with reprimand. "You assumed he was no one because of his jacket." Ashley stepped back, her throat tight. I thought he didn't look like—" "Didn't look like what?" the manager asked. "Like someone worth respecting?" The silence was unbearable. And then Keanu stood up, not abruptly, not to intimidate, just enough to be seen and heard. "It shouldn't matter who I am," he began. His voice filled the room like a melody with weight. "No one should have to prove their worth to receive dignity." Ashley's eyes brimmed with tears, but she didn't look away. Keanu continued. "We live in a world obsessed with surface, with appearances, brands, status. But kindness doesn't wear designer shoes. And dignity isn't earned through a wine list." He paused. "Let the words settle." "Ashley." Her name fell gently, not like an accusation, but a mirror. "You're good at your job. You move with precision. You know how to read a room. But tonight, you missed something important. You saw dust on my boots but didn't see the man standing in them." She finally spoke, her voice fragile. I didn't know." "I believe you," he replied. "But now that you do, what will you do with that?" No one moved. No one breathed. And then Keanu turned to the manager. "I'd like to speak with the entire staff when the dining room closes." The manager nodded immediately. "Of course. It would be an honor." Keanu looked back at Ashley, not with anger, but with a strange, almost painful empathy. "I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm here because this place matters, and because you matter." And with that, he sat back down. Ashley turned away slowly, wiping her eyes as she walked. But the room remained still, not because of who he was, but because of how he was. And something told every guest there they'd never forget this night. The dining room slowly emptied, but no one left unchanged. Tables were cleared, chairs stacked. But a quiet electricity lingered in the air, like the final note of a song that still echoes in your bones. Inside the private lounge, the staff gathered. Some stood with arms crossed, others with hands folded nervously. Ashley sat at the back, her face pale, her eyes still glossy. Keanu stood in the center. No spotlight, no stage, just presence. He waited until the murmurs stopped. Then he began. "We all make mistakes." His voice was calm, steady, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of fear, sometimes because we forget who we were before we got tired. Silence. "What matters isn't the mistake, it's what we do with it." He looked around, not scanning, connecting, eye to eye, soul to soul. Tonight, we didn't just witness bad service. We saw what happens when judgment gets louder than empathy. When someone walks in, and we decide their worth before they speak a word. A busboy, barely 20, swallowed hard. A veteran sommelier looked down at his shoes. Keanu continued. "I wore this jacket tonight on purpose, not because I had something to prove, but because I wanted to see what kind of place this really was. Not the food, not the decor, the heart." He turned gently toward Ashley. "Ashley," she raised her head slowly. "You've worked here longer than most. You care. I see that. But somewhere along the way, you started guarding the door instead of opening it." Her lips trembled. I forgot what it felt like to be on the other side," she whispered. "We all do," he replied, "until someone reminds us." A few staff members nodded subtly. Keanu looked back at the group. "You don't know what people carry when they walk in that door. Grief, shame, hunger, hope. Sometimes they come here not just for the meal, but to remember who they are." He paused, letting the room breathe. Kindness is never wasted. Then he softened, just a little. "And it doesn't take grand gestures. It's in the way we look someone in the eye, the way we say their name. The way we offer a seat, without checking their shoes first. Ashley stood. Everyone turned. Her voice cracked as she spoke. I let the uniform become a mask. I thought professionalism meant perfection, but really, it's about presence. She turned to Keanu. I'm sorry, not because of who you are, but because I forgot who I was. Keanu smiled gently. That apology isn't for me. It's for you. Then he stepped back, hands in pockets, eyes soft. You can all go home now, but I hope you carry something with you. As the staff began to leave, quieter than they'd arrived, Ashley lingered behind. Keanu walked past her toward the exit, but just before stepping out he paused and turned. You're better than tonight, Ashley. She nodded, and for the first time in years, she believed it. The night had ended. But something lingered in the air, like the final note of a symphony you wish would never fade. Outside, the streets of Beverly Hills glowed under soft yellow lights. The city that sparkled with money and noise now felt still. Keanu walked alone, same jacket, same boots. But somehow everything felt different now. He paused in front of the restaurant door, looked up at the golden letters that read Lumi, then smiled. A quiet, knowing smile. The kind that belongs to someone who carries weight with grace and wields power only when necessary. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded note. Left it with the night manager. It read, Make room for the ones who walk in quietly. They often have the most to say. K.R. The next morning, Ashley arrived early, eyes still heavy from the night before, but her heart, different. She greeted the kitchen staff by name, offered coffee to the dishwasher, and when a woman in a faded cardigan stepped through the front door that afternoon, Ashley didn't hesitate. She smiled, warmly, and led her to the center table, not near the kitchen, not in the shadows, but where the chandeliers shone their brightest, because kindness isn't about who deserves it, it's about who needs it, and giving it anyway. And sometimes, the richest soul in the room is the one who walks in quietly, smiling, wearing boots covered in dust. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of the quiet strength inside you or someone you love, then this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that touch your heart, open your eyes, and remind you that kindness still matters. Because sometimes, and all it takes is one story to change how you see the world.